So what we have here is a new grill and cheek-piece assembly for Ferguson 20 on it. So I got this as part of kind of a deal, a kind of job lot of parts. It was still in its box and the owner never fitted it. Now, if you remember, not too long ago, I put up a video of the other Ferguson 20 diesel I have in my home place. I have it 20, oh geez, I have it a long time, 25 odd years, 6 years probably. And when I was piecing together that bonnet, the cheek piece in that bonnet was missing this piece coming down from the centre piece, and it was actually broken in 2 bits, and my dad put a bit of sheet metal behind it and got it kind of spot welded on the inside. So we did kind of, and we tapped out as much of the dents as we got, so we did salvage it and it's all original. Now, I was always trying to maybe find an old bit of a Grille or even the centrepiece with this piece still on it, so that I could try and manufacture it onto the one at home, but every one of them seems to break there and there, and it's just getting impossible to find them. So what I think I'm going to do is replace on the one at home just the T-piece, the centrepiece and the cheek piece together on one out of this grill. I rebuilt the 2 grills in the one at home bit by bit, piece by piece. So some of them were bent and dented, and I put them in the vise and I straightened them out. So I want to keep them, especially because they're all original, and they're not perfect, and the bodywork on it, the bonnet isn't perfect, but I like it. I like there's a lot of history tied up in it in the family. So what I'm going to want to do with this, because there's a nice patina on the tractor at home, is I want to take off the 2 grills here, and I want to work on this and do a bit of patina work. I've never done it before, so I'm no expert. I'm no expert in anything when it comes to tractors. I enjoy the challenge. Not overly gone on the quality of these little tiny screw bolts. I have to say they're very small and very weak, if you ask me. Remember putting actually bolts in the one at home, and they're a lot stronger. But look, we can only work with what we have. So that's that off. There's captive nuts in below them there. So what is my idea with this, what do we call it, patina? Well, I have a lot of different colours of grey there, a few different colours of grey, and I know that the tractor at home, I would have painted it when I was a teenager once or twice, and you know yourself, every time you buy Ferguson grey or Stoneleigh grey, whatever it's called, it's different. If you buy it from a different, unless you buy the same make, it's always a different shade. So there's a lot of different colours on it, including the more original ones underneath it. So I'll have to probably put a few different colours of grey on this, and yeah, it'll probably stand out a little bit. But look, I'll probably end up clear varnishing it as well, just to help give that kind of vintage look. We'll play around with sandpaper, we'll play around with something maybe to give a bit more of a polished finish than sandpaper. If I want to patina a certain area, I don't want it looking scratchy. We'll play around with paint thinners to take off paint in areas. We'll try and rub a bit of patina into it in places where it would have wore, like the paint would have wore off, like we say when the tractor was using a mowing bar, knocking a meadow of hay, the grass and stuff and whatever. If there was briars or anything in the field, maybe it would rub at the bottom of the cheek piece then, and you'd the paint wore. So we'll try and mimic it a little bit. Never done it before, so I just don't know how it is going to go, and I don't really want to go doing any more spray painting. This is already after getting the spray, you know, rust primer. So I think anything I do now is going to be farm spec. It's agri spec, as to say. It's going to be brush painted, a little bit of rubbing here and there to get down to the metal, and when I have bare metal eventually, maybe give it just a spray lacquer, or I prefer varnish myself. So we'll get a few bits of sandpaper, we'll roughen this up a little bit, just so that things will stick to it a little bit better. Probably not going to need a whole lot, but we'll just get a few bits of sandpaper there anyway. So what I'm looking for here is just to give it a little bit of roughing, that's all. I haven't looked up any videos on how to patina things. I'm sure there's plenty of them out there. I'm just going to, at the end of the day, what's the worst that can happen? Don't like it, sandpaper it off, shot blast it off, do whatever you want to get it off, try again. I just don't want to go fitting bright and shiny parts on that tractor. It would look terrible. And I think patinaing, whatever you want to call it, it is a skill. So I've seen some fairly cool jobs done on the up, particularly the kind of American pickups and stuff. Some lovely jobs done on them at the shows and stuff. And I just think it's nice, you know, instead of having a perfectly painted vehicle where you're kind of fussy about scratches, the patina just kind of, I don't know, it just looks like something you don't have to be too worried about. You've probably overcoated it with lacquer and all of that, so it's not going to get rusty. Anyway, that's the most important. But this is first time for me here. I don't know, I've seen lads before using oily rags to paint on paint, blotch it on with an oily rag. So all I can say is I do have a few greys here between spray paints and between brush paints, so maybe we could try and have a play around with them. I know this is a very bluey grey, bluey greeny grey, and this is a lighter grey. That tractor actually is fairly light grey on top, on the top coat. So we'll just give that a mix up quickly. I don't want to mix it perfectly because this particular one here, it's kind of probably handy to have. It's just an old screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, that the handle broke off, and when I put it in the drill, the handle broke off, and when I put it in the drill, it goes in scowaways, and it works as a paint mixer. So this paint is actually nearly specced. I think the frost we've had lately now is probably ruining it, so that could actually be the perfect kind of paint we want for the job. This is all going to be very much trial and error. Yeah, I don't want to mix it too much because there's bits of black and stuff in there and darker stuff. Maybe that's exactly what we're going to want. So what kind of a brush do we go for next? So I'm going to go and get a selection of brushes, and I'm going to make my mind up what I think would work. I think personally, mad kind of brushes like that, old brushes are the best with the bits, the bristles all over the place. Don't want a nice, it sounds mad when I say I don't want a nice finish. I want it to look old. So I think I'm going to go for the lighter grey as more of a top coat, right? So that's nice and uneven, saying by colours. It's every. And this I'm going to go for further down. I'm just trying to think of what's on the tractor, and that's what seems to be a darker one underneath. So if we were to pick one of these, that might be handy. Even that lad there, that's a very bad brush, really plasticky bristles, really, the camera decides to focus. If we put a bit paint on it, this paint actually is really gloopy, since the last time I opened it. So I'm going to work a bit of a layer onto it now. As I said, I've never done this before, but I am going to go sanding down, we'll say, top coats in places right down to bare metal, like along here, and I'm going to want bits of this paint to be seen. In other places I'm going to want the more top coats, the coats will be above this to be seen. I might even put a slight bit of white on it here and there, mix it through, a bit of black. You know, I'm just trying to think of all the colours that might have been on it, like I say, on an old cheek piece, where they might have painted on a red, like I did at one stage. So I'm trying to replicate the layers of history, if that makes sense. So it's something I'm going to try and build up over time. So years of starting handles going in there. I know it's a diesel engine, but still, I definitely had starting handles in it, adjusting timing and all of that. So they're the only right that we definitely would get sandpaper and sand in around that starting handle hole there. And I'm not too fussed about this particular part there, because I'm going to try and do a good bit of patina on that, or any of the sides here, because this is all just first time that I'm doing this. So I want to just simply do the less is more, kind of take the less is more approach. So that's probably good enough for a first coat. So the thing is just to get the heat gun now and get that a little bit tacky, and then maybe try and go with a lighter grey on top of it. I don't even mind, of course, a bit of rust primer showing up as well. Of course they were rust primers in factory, so, or maybe they were supplied to the factory, but they were rust primered as well. So a bit of that red rust primer showing up in places is fine as well. And there's going to be a good bit of rubbing along here and any of them stray edges where they definitely would have got worn over the years. So we'll get that just a little bit tacky, and we'll come back then and see what we're going to put on top of it. That's gone tacky to touch. I've more so focused on this side of the cheek piece with the heat gun, and it's nice and tacky there now. There's nothing on my finger and I rub it. So I don't particularly need it to be perfectly dry, to be honest with you. There's going to be a bit of a mixing going on here of colours and everything. So I'm going to go with the lighter grey now, and I will probably, I don't even know what I'm going to do, to be honest with you, after this, but I'm just going to take it stage by stage, step by step, and see. When I put this on here, I might decide to put a very light coat of white or black, maybe very little bits here and there, and then when I go sanding, that I can kind of show off a little touch of white or black, just to add a little layer. But this is a lighter grey here, so I want to try and work. This is going to be more so my top coat, so I want to try and at least get into some of them areas in there. Don't want big straight lines left, like where the centerpiece there is attached in there. So I don't mind that being a little bit more, let's say, painted. This is a bad brush, as I said, so there's probably going to be the odd hair left in the paint. It's exactly what I want. I have an oily rag here beside me, and I'm going to try new engine oil and old engine oil as well, maybe on a little corner, and see what that's going to look like. Don't want to put too much paint on the brush, because I want to try and texture this a little bit. Slowly build it up. And actually what we might do for the crack is just try a little bit of engine oil on an oily rag here. It takes a while for this to prime, and we'll try and spread a bit of, come on, my hands are freezing in this weather here, not to show how of a floor. So there's a slowly coming there, right? So that's plenty of oil, probably too much, so we'll just rub it in a little bit. Just see if I can get a nice little effect, and if I don't like it, I let it dry and I just sand it off. I like the kind of dirty finish that's coming up on that already. Now, of course, there probably does need to be a little bit more paint on it. We're learning here as we're going along. This mightn't be everybody's cup of tea. Maybe another bit of oil. Will we go and try something completely different? Not completely different, but different. Buy some waste engine oil here from the Ferguson 20 I was working on in here. So we'll give that a dip. This will be a bit blacker. Maybe that might add a little bit of colour to it that we want. Okay, so there's the little bit of black engine oil there. Oh yeah. It's like a brush stroke. I like that. That's the kind of stuff I'm going to want. Remember, we'll be sanding through this as well in places. I think we'll get another bit of that. I think we'll get another bit of that black engine oil. Let's just push the boat out here now. There's a little bit on that. It's probably too much, but we'll play around with it. A little touch there. I'll give that a rub in. I don't go too mad on it. It's interesting to see how this dries more so. Definitely doesn't starting to look a little bit your dog's dinner, or it doesn't exactly look new anymore anyway. I don't know how this engine oil will dry on top of the paint, but we'll definitely be able to find out. Probably a bit too much engine oil, but again I will be giving it rubs of different grades of sandpaper. We'll definitely be sanding a good bit along there and any of these lines here, so that we can bring it back even to bare metal and then give it a final coat of clear varnish, not even clear varnish, slightly goldeny varnish, kind of yacht varnish. At least that way it does give it that kind of vintage look. Big fan of that kind of varnish. Actually, I'd love to be able to use it as lacquer. I'm sure I could if I thinned it down a bit. But that's probably enough for that side at the moment. We'll just have a play around. It'll be interesting to see how it dries. If I come back tomorrow and I rub that in my fingers and it's all covered in engine oil, well, as long as a bit of it stays in the paint, I don't mind too much. So put a bit of, I'm going to try and keep less paint on the paintbrush now for this side. Just try and focus it more in the middle and up the top, because it definitely would have got, if it was an original part, it definitely would be, after getting fairly well worn at the bottom. I don't go too much on that. Okay, go for another little bit of engine oil. Go on and focus. Stay focused. Okay. So this is looking a bit more golden on that side. Come on. Maybe we'll do something different. Beauty of it is you can kind of work it into it a little bit. So we'll try and work it in a little bit more this side and see, and be able to compare then to the other side. Maybe a little bit of dirt on it here and there, and that's exactly what we want. So it's definitely not looking like a brand new part anymore. From a distance, if you were to look at that, you know, you wouldn't think it came out of a box there a couple of minutes ago. Or you think that the owner is an utter egot. which I probably am, but we're definitely going to try something. If we don't like it, the beauty of it is you get out your sandpaper and you sand it off and you just spray paint it or whatever colour you want. But that's not what I want for that tractor. Nice little bits of hairs stuck on it there. Exactly what I want. And there's places there now where we'd be able to give a rub. Oh, I like that. I like that. I like how that just cut right through exactly where I wanted it to. Right down to the metal. See it showing up there a little bit. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that too. Some of the corner there. Right. Yeah, I definitely think we might be able. Now the only thing is that tractor is it's hard to know what colour it is. The one at home, I couldn't even guess. It's every sort of a colour. Every sort of colour of grey. Okay, I like them now. They're after doing a nice job on that. I'm not going to go hitting it with a hammer and putting dents in it. That defeats the purpose. Of course I can do all of this, more of this kind of sanding and stuff. I like the way it kind of dulls it. Gives a different texture to it. It's cutting into the slightly darker grey as well. That's exactly what I want. I don't know, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. This is the first time that I've ever done that like this. It's fun. You don't have to be fussy, and that particular tractor is something that I just like, you know. I don't want to be fussy about paint work on it. I don't want rust on it. It has had many different parts from many different tractors over the years to try and get it a bit more original and all of that. It's a bit of a basket case. They were a bitsa, I think is another word for them. But I just couldn't go spray painting this in grey. It would be the wrong colour grey anyway, because there's so many colours of grey on that it just wouldn't look right. I think something like this is just going to be the only way I'm going to be able to justify replacing any of the bonnet at all, to try and at least get a bit of patina onto it. And then you have the benefit then of having a solid piece that's not you know, corroded, rusty, about to fall out, all of that. That was probably a bit too much, but we are going to have a bit too much rust primer this side to be seen. Put a bit of brighter grey on that to add a little layer, bit of contrast. I want it to look like it was painted over the years just to keep rust off it or whatever. As it's a little too bright, we can rub a bit of away or use the oily bit, try and get a bit of duller, dirtier look on it. That's the camera stand. Sure, if it wasn't the camera stand, it'd be the bloody camera. Yeah. So maybe just a little bit of patina work on the centerpiece now. I could actually do a video compilation of cameras and camera stands falling, nothing else, just that. But then again, I'm too lazy to attach the camera to the stand. I take it off too often, so it'd be a lot safer if it was attached to it. So, I've seen lads paint tractors this kind of a setup where they get a bit of oil, a bit of paint, and they start rubbing it on, and it works surprisingly well on castings. Like, gives a lovely vintage look to it. The engine oil should just give this a little slight aged, should just make it a little bit kind of goldy looking. Like, again, I don't know how this is going to dry. Don't know how it's going to dry. Interesting, but if it dries at all, we can get a bit of varnish onto it, and at the end of the day, the varnish is going to leave a nice golden look to it as well. Like, and then any of them little areas there that we've brought back to metal, like down to the rust primer at least, and go over them with the oily rag. And maybe that will just give it a bit of age as well, instead of having it looking just like perfect shiny metal. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Strangely enough, I like it. Just as the paint gets a little bit tacky, it just it takes the engine oil, can it stick or something? And actually, I kind of like what's happening here with the whole rubbing it into it. I like that effect, now that it's gone tacky. Yeah, it really isn't coming out in this camera because it's crap, but I think for, we'll say, first coat, you know, first attempt. Come on, camera. Apologies. Come back. There we are. I think for a first kind of attempt, we'll say, I'd be happy enough with that. I think it looks interesting to me. Looks like there's a few things going on in it. I personally, when I see a tractor, a vintage tractor, no matter what type, when it has, you know, an original kind of bodywork, says he as he's pointing to a new reproduction part, but when it has a nice original bodywork with a bit of patina, I just find it so much more interesting. I find, you know, that's what survived. It survived the stuff it's driven into, all of the stuff that's hit the front grille, and all of the coolant leaks that were leaking down top of it, didn't manage to rust through it. I just find that interesting. It tells me as well the material that was in them. So yeah, I kind of like that. I like that. You look down the side of it there as well, and you get to catch the light. Like, you can see there's layers on it, and that's exactly what's on the tractor at home. Like, it's rough to the touch. You can feel the brush strokes, like, you know. And we'll do something with them later on, maybe, or we'll just give them, we'll do the same thing. We'll just put on 2 different coats of grey, and whatever I decide to put over it, like clear varnish, we'll put in loads in there, because that's obviously where moisture and water and stuff will be catching. And we'll do these as well. But just as a quick kind of an attempt at it, maybe someone might say that that's not even really patina, you know, it's just like, as in, maybe I should go more with the sanding and all. but I kind of like it the way it is there, roughly, you know. So cool, yeah, let's see what we'll do next with this. I may as well do something with that. So I'm going to put on the darker grey. Again, this is a terrible, terrible brush. That's exactly what we want. Some of it's gone over the top there already because the brush is so sprayed and stuff all over the place, so it doesn't matter. I'll be able to rub all that then with the rag. It's just to keep the rust off in here is all I really want. And then we can focus on the back of it then. Once this one's happy with the front. Again, this isn't going to be the final coat, like it's going to be getting lacquer. And I might even, for the crack, I might even use paint thinners to pin down the lacquer. Sorry, not the lacquer, the clear varnish. I'll try and spray it. I think that would be kind of cool. Maybe brush stroke would be better, I don't know. That's the beauty of this. Fairly easy part to clean down if you don't like it, you know. If you don't like it, just like a shot blaster there. I shot blast the whole bloody thing off very quickly, like. So I just like to get a bit more paint in here. I know it's not going to be seen, but it's just going to mean that it'll last a bit longer before it starts coming off. But literally as I'm doing this, I'm just realising, why don't I just double up on the bloody varnish or whatever top coat I put on, and that's probably true. So yeah, with that in mind, fuck it, that's enough. There's no point in going painting in here perfectly, and let's be honest, this isn't going to go fitting perfectly in the bonnet as well, being a reproduction part, so we'll just put a bit of it on it there like that, and yeah, whatever top coat we decide, we'll just load it on there, or lurry it on, let's say. Anywhere that's going to be, we'll say, out of view, you know, is a place that moisture can get caught, like, you know, between this and the actual bonnet. So yeah, I kind of like that. So we went a little bit over heavy with it there in one place, so we'll just take care of that here. We can always take care of it with sandpaper afterwards. So let's just see. I think it was along here somewhere. Yeah, you can see it just coming around the corner here. Yeah, so around the side of it. So let's put a little bit of oil on that. Just try and smear that around a bit there. And if once I go down to the rust primer, I can. And the same with this side here. Again, literally just, I won't even say learning as we go along with it. I don't know if you could call this learning, but literally try my hand as I'm going along. Yeah. I suppose since we're looking at rust primer there as well, may as well put a little bit of paint on it. I'll be fairly fussy, that said, about anything like that's going to be in under the bonnet like that. I'm going to make sure it's well coated with whatever top coat is going on. I presume, as I said, clear varnish or a lacquer or some kind. I probably prefer the clear varnish. I'm making sure there's plenty there because the moisture gets down in behind them each side, and you end up then with rust in jig time. So we'll definitely be able to do, yeah, definitely be able to lurry on the top coat in them places. Okay, so yeah, I just like it. I do. I like the kind of texture you see when you run along it there. I think a bit of, especially kind of a clear varnish over that now would be lovely. And I like the fact you don't have to be fussy. If I went and spray painted that and put it on the tractor, especially if I leave it in the home place where there's a lot of traffic coming in out of that shed, and because the tractor isn't used that much, stuff hanging on it and things bumping into it, and there's a compressor near it and that's on wheels and it's hitting the front, I'd be fussy if it was all perfectly spray painted. Whereas with this, it kind of looks like it's had, you know, it's been fairly tortured already in its life, apart from dents. Yeah, cool. What do you think anyway? What do you think? Should there be a bit more along this line here? Rubbing and stuff. I know the one at home has a lot of rub marks. A little deeper there maybe. And maybe we've gone a little bit too much in comparison with the rest. So I'll put some of that lighter grey on, and we'll just darken it off with a smudge of this cloth. Or maybe we'll look for a dirtier cloth. That area there that I'm working on. This, well, that's completely rotten, that cloth. I have a feeling there's more. Lots of actual dirt on that. Get the dirtiest part of this cloth. Just try and take a bit of the bright out of that. Yeah. And obviously this is the most forward facing part of it, so it is going to be the part that would have got a lot of wear and tear. So I'm just going to leave it at that, I think, with there. And I'll have another think when it dries and see if there's anything else I want to do. I was thinking of going, as I said, and putting maybe a black here and there and then sanding down to it, but no. I think the Fergusons originally, if I'm not mistaken, had rust primer in red, darker grey and a lighter grey on top. The darker being like a primer there, nearly, that were more so than a rust primer. Undercoat, overcoat, we'll say. So this is a little bit more so in keeping with that. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there, let it dry, and we'll come back then and see what we're going to do with top coat. It mightn't be happy drying with all that oil on it, in which case I'll panel wipe it or something and try and just get it off, or give it a quick rub of paint thinners and start again. Because the paint thinners will probably take it off right back a good bit as well, but we'll work it, we'll see. Hit it with a rub of sandpaper, maybe roughen it up again. We'll see how it dries anyway. Okay, so it's just dried off there now, and what I did was I got my cloth and I dipped it in my drawer there that I kind of have all the rubbish in and stuff, and there's every sort of a bit of grease and oil in it, and I just gave it a bit more of a rub. I thought it just looked a little bit too, how do we say, I wanted to look dirty, like, and I wanted to look rough, and I wanted to look like it's aged a little bit, and I think doing that is probably what's needed. The camera really isn't picking it up great, but it just looks dull and a little bit weathered and interesting, really, I think. So that's, yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it as a process. I think it's you just don't have to be fussy. You're not going to have people looking at it going, oh, if it was spray painted, saying, oh, you sprayed too much there and there's a run mark, or so kind of like that. Like, so what I was doing there was just, as I said, taking the cloth and just giving it a bit of a rub there on the bench and stuff there, and picking up a few kind of bits of dirt and stuff and rubbing it in, because I think that's actually, to be honest, that's actually what's giving it the most authentic look. That's fairly really dirty now. So we'll take the cleaner part of the cloth and just try and take a bit of that off it. But you can see what it does, like it gives it a bit of age. Come on, focus. So yeah, maybe something like that is the way to go. Like, I think that's actually, to be honest with you, again, the camera doesn't seem to be picking it up mighty, but that seems to me anyway to be what's giving it the nice kind of a old, it makes the bit of, it just makes it look a bit older. It's been around a while, like. It's taken a bit of the shininess out of the metal, and down there where you'd expect it to be a bit grubby, like. I don't like that. I like that look. Definitely go and mix a kind of things that I was cutting in the vise. It's a sawdust mixed with kind of oily, diesely, greasy bits. If we go too heavy, then you can kind of just buff it off a little bit. That definitely now, more so than just putting on different layers of paint, seems to be giving it the best effect. Again, it'll be very interesting to see how the top coat will stick to this, stick to it at all. But if it doesn't, at least we know we have plenty of oil rubbed into it. That should keep the rust off it. A bit of wear around there now as well. As if there's a bit of activity going on there. So we're at the point now where the paint isn't coming off. So I like that. Now again, this probably isn't going to go. Still probably going to stand out a bit on the tractor. But definitely probably going to stand out compared to the rest of the bonnet. But I think as a piece on its own, it definitely looks kind of cool. You can kind of see now the effect around the starting handle and stuff like that I'm looking for. Out of interest, I'm going to get my starting handle and see does it actually even fit in there, because being a reproduction part, it might well not. So we'll get our starting handle and have a look. Okay. So it does fit in. Give it a bit of a rub in there. A little wear there now in places as well. Okay. Yeah, so that's just after probably roughening things up a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Cool. You could probably go to town on this now, keep rubbing stuff into it, but what I'm just going to do is let it dry. We can ligan to trimu haritha overnight, and we'll just see. Then I'll try with a bit of that whole varnish I have, and we'll see then how does it turn out with that. And the next time I'm home, I'll fit this into the bonnet, and I'll reuse my original grills. But looking at them now, a man would be a little bit kind of inspired now, driven to try and patina them, but they're going to be a lot harder to do, because for obvious reasons you've got to get right in there, and it could be done, of course. It's not as easy as working on a fairly flat panel like that. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. He's going to go and patina these, isn't he? that be sacrilege? Or will we give it a go? I think we'll give it a go. Feck it. Then I can just go and fit the whole bloody thing into it. And then at least when I get my old one out, if I do come across an old bit of a broken up bonnet that has this intact, or even that all intact, I'll take my time and fit it back, and it'll be all original. I'm not going to go throwing out anything that I have in that tractor, but maybe, just maybe it might be a thing to do a bit of patina work on this and on the other one. I think that'll probably be the next video. So we'll leave it there for now anyway. Okay, may as well do it. So I suppose when I start bringing the odd few leaves down to bare metal in places, make it look like there was a little bang or two, and I can tell you there was a bang or two in that tractor. Over the years, my dad was an awful hard man on the clutch. You have to roughen it all up anyway. Focus more, of course, on the places you're actually going to see. Not too fussed about the parts behind, of course. We can do them afterwards. We'll just try and see if we can make anything out of a patina job on this. It's going to be a lot harder because there's so much places in there that'll want it as well. And you know, when you have a big dirty cloth like that, it's going to be hard to get down in there and make it look authentic. But I do think with a Ferguson 20 that a nice grille and a nice bonnet really does set them off. This is a heavier sandpaper here, so let's take the odd place back to metal. I am going to focus on trying to keep as much paint on the bloody thing as well, of course. It's literally going to give it a scratch in here just to help whatever I do put on it stick. Mind you, it's going to stick to that fine anyway. I don't really want it to be nice and smooth. So, okay. This is going to be a lot harder now. Definitely is. So we'll go with the darker grey underneath. Don't want too much paint on the brush if that's possible. And lay down that first. The problem, of course, when you're trying to paint inside it, you end up bloody painting the top and all of that a lot more than you actually want sometimes. So again, I think the only way of getting around that is just try and get some of the paint off the brush first. This is definitely going to be a lot harder to make it look nice. Try and get some more paint off it there. Happy with the other bit now, I have to say. Definitely looks cool, interesting, textured. Of course, when you're doing this, you're kind of only looking at this side, and you turn it around, then you see the other side as well. So I have other brushes different sizes to get down in there a little bit better, to try and put a bit more of a leveler coat on things, I suppose you could say. This will do just to get a quick coat on it. Make an absolute disaster of this brush, of course. But I suppose the beauty of this is you don't have to be fussy. That's the beauty of it. Bits of hairs and everything coming off it there, and that's, as I said, I wanted to look like it was painted by a teenager years ago, like I used to do. I can tell you I wasn't lucky enough to have spray painting gear available when I was that age. Okay. Of course it's in there. I don't want every single place where it's hard to get to be rust primer. I am going to want it to be, you know, to be a bit more authentic. Like some places there's going to be more paint than others, but I don't want it to look like it's been purposely patinaed, as an answer. So what I might have to do there is just grab a smaller paintbrush. And just get in there a little bit better. Try and pick one out of. Yeah, something like that will do. That'll do just fine. Just to take a bit of the places there where there's nothing but rust primer, I want to try and get some of that out of it anyway. Leave a bit of it there, of course, for the overcoat to take it, the lighter grey, cover a bit of that. But I don't want it to be this, to look like it was painted where it was handy to paint. I want it to look half right anyway. And of course paint helps keep away rust as well. Quick flick in there where them little cross pieces are connecting into the frame there, the side pieces. Let's try and help seal that off. Not going too crazy, of course. Yeah, so you see the whole way down, there's rust primer in there, so this is a terrible brush. That's exactly what we want. Even just to spread out what paint is there, take a bit of the red look off it. Try and at least get the harder places done first. Yeah. In there a little bit anyway. The top coat then can do a little bit more, and then we'll leave a little bit of red, of course, for variety. Some of them redder than others. Okay, so that's that bit. So maybe we need to go on to the light grey now. Take it nice and handy, not too much paint. Yeah, well actually we'll get the heat gun on that first and I'll come back then we'll have that heat gun. Okay, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. So I went and just put another bit of the brighter grey over that, right? So that's done a certain degree anyway. So I suppose, considering the other part we did was nice and dull looking and dirty looking and all that, I'm going to try and rub in a bit of engine oil into this now in places. Try and get, Like there, you can just see it's starting to get a little bit more aged looking. So we'll dabble that on here and there. Obviously it's going to be more pronounced on the very, very top of it. It's going to be harder to go down in there. I'll try the baby finger and that, the Ludine, as they say here. The Ludine. I'll try and rub a bit down into there. The paint has just gone off tacky, so it's definitely taken a bit of the one thing I noticed after painting, of course. It's just really shiny still, even though it's not painted well. I want to get a bit of age into that paint. So I think all the paint really needs to get a coating of considering we did it on the other cheek piece and centre piece, I think the whole lot needs to get a bit of, and yes, we can probably dip a little bit of paint, put a bit of paint on here if we want to take a bit of the rust primer out of it there. There's a bit too much rust primer to be seen. You can kind of try and blotch it on there a little bit. Down there. To mix with the oil. There's oil in paint anyway, like so. There's a bit too much in there. Put a bit of paint on it. We'll take the shiny look off it then. A bit of a dirty rag. Definitely aging it a little bit. Okay, so there's a lot more rust primer on this side here. So it will just has to be fitted a certain way. So we had a smaller brush there, didn't we? Yeah. We can just maybe get the brighter grey now and just give a little bit of a touch in there. Colour it in a little bit. I was the last person in my class, 6th, it was, whatever class it was in primary school, allowed to use a pen. I had to stick using the pencil because there was ink everywhere. On me, on the person beside me, everywhere. So I am messy by nature when it comes to this kind of stuff. So this kind of work, if it's good or bad or indifferent, I don't know, but it suits me. It's so much nicer in some ways than trying to look for the perfect finish. There's no perfect finish with this. That's what I like about it. Just try it. If you don't like it, let it dry and sand it off, or paint over it, or put more paint on and put less paint on it. Play around it and enjoy it. So we'll put another bit of oil on. Rub another bit of oil here and there, and that'll then help our dirty rags. Whatever's on the dirty rag, the lucky dip, that'll help that stick to it. Well, this is definitely something different. I've never done anything like this before. So I'm just going with my own feel here now. Yeah, I don't know how clear varnish is going to go stick into this now, to be honest with you. We will find out. If we heat it up well, I suppose, and spray it on, maybe I might do something. Might stick. Okay, time to get dirty, I think. And what have we got in the drawer here? Nice oily, dirty deposits. Yeah, it likes that. It likes that. won't go too mad. Take your time. I suppose on a nice original piece it took, what, 70 odd years to make it look nice. I'm trying to do it live on a video. Yeah, so the way it's looking there now at the moment is definitely looks like it's getting there. The lighting in this shed is annoying because it's too bright. It's making it look brighter here than it actually is. It actually is it's actually nice and dull. But what I will and what I want to do with this is just hit it the odd place with sandpaper. Bring it back a little bit, as if there was a little bit of a ding on it. Because, as I said, a good few little dings. Good few little dings in that tractorine now. Let's give the odd little one there. And let's take a bit of the shiny off the very front where it's more likely to have got something rubbed up again it. Here and there. Down at the ends there. Try and get a bit of rust primer sticking out there. Just here and there randomly. And just looking over at the other piece there, we need to get a little more dirt onto that grill there now, definitely. Give a generous wipe into the drawer there that collects all the stuff I cut. Gets bits of bearings thrown in it that have grease and oil on them. Gets sawdust. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, I like it. I like that. I think is that right or wrong? Specific to sides. Must be. Probably a bit too much rust primer on it. But I kind of like it. Yeah, definitely doesn't look like it's new anyway, I think it's fair to say. Cool. So I look forward to the chance on the other side. I'm not finished with this yet. Of course, I have to go and do all under there. But yeah, that's roughly what I'm thinking of doing anyway with the other side, and try and blend things in a little bit more then when we get both of them done, and maybe I'll fit it back on there and do a final little rub of paint or oil or sandpaper maybe, and we'll see how it looks together.